Welcome to Profit CRM Learning Series. CRM is a journey. This video series will take you through the ins and outs of the Profit CRM.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, all my fans, friends, family, and clients and prospects out there, welcome to the program today. I am delighted to share with you this topic. It's one of the most, I think, important topics of anyone that is either considering implementing a CRM, or maybe you've already implemented a CRM and you're interested in the topic of developing a CRM strategy. My name is Warren Stokes. I'm the Director of Sales for Avidian Technology. And again, the topic today is how to create and execute your CRM strategy. We're going to be covering a lot of ground in a short amount of time, so I'll move fairly briskly, but I do really enjoy sharing all this with folks on the call today. One of the main reasons is that by, I think, helping people be successful, we become more successful. Our CEO is fond of saying that our management doesn't pay your paychecks, our customers do. So this is really all about being customer focused and having a strategy to execute on that. One thing, I hate to shatter your illusions or surprise you, but I got to tell you, hope is not a strategy. And I am often just shocked to hear from people who say, hey, I ask them, what's your strategy for next year? And they say, well, we hope we're going to sell more. Well, that's actually not a strategy. So let me tell you, share with you a little bit of, topics and concepts on how to create and execute your CRM strategy. First of all, I would put it this way, that CRM is not a product. It's not a software. CRM is a journey. So it's not a one-time thing. Your strategy will continue, and I hope that I can help you with that journey. The concepts here are, first of all, very important. Have a written plan. Sounds obvious, but it's surprising to me how many people don't have a plan when they say, oh, we're going to implement a CRM, or we're going to re-implement our CRM, or we're going to focus on it. But you got to have a plan, and that involves setting objectives, prioritizing what you're trying to do with it, your requirements. And I always recommend kind of following the format of must have, should have, and nice to have in terms of functionality, features, and requirements. It's very important to define the problems you're solving. No, I think it's a mistake to go out and just say, we're going to implement a CRM without trying to understand what problems you're trying to solve. Maybe it's revenue generation or sales growth. Maybe it's better communications. Maybe it's all of the above, but I'll share with you a lot of specific ways to do this. But it's very important to set what I call SMART goals. It's not a new concept, but SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Keep that in mind. So set some goals and your objectives, but make them SMART goals. Very important with any CRM is to establish a common platform for everyone with regards to all the data, all the communications, your calendaring, how people keep track of their time and their meetings. And you have to train people on that platform. We use Outlook, that's our program. The examples I'll be using today in today's presentation and discussion will be based on an Outlook-based CRM called Profit CRM. Many of you are likely customers of ours, but if you're considering a CRM, just make sure that you establish a common platform so everyone's on the same page for calendaring, email, communications, your data storage, and all of that stuff. And I think that it's up to you, but we chose Outlook as our platform because it's such a ubiquitous and very effective platform for these things. Another key concept is to establish consistent and repeatable processes. Often in CRM, it's referred to more as a sales process, but it can actually relate to any other processes in your business, and we'll cover information on how to do that. If you don't have goals or metrics that you're trying to achieve, it's hard to know if you were successful. So I highly recommend establishing some sort of basic metrics to help you define what you're going to do, quantify it, and then being able to track it so that you can ensure that you're actually performing to the plan that you set. A continued adoption is a key thing with all CRMs, because really the bane of any CRM is getting people to actually use it. Profit is probably one of the easiest to adopt and use. Profit CRM is our program, but this applies to any program, and it's not a one-time thing. You can get people launched and trained, but you have to ensure continued adoption. and I'll share with you how to do that. Reporting and analytics is a really key part of your CRM strategy, because otherwise, how would you know if you're achieving your goals, and how do you get visibility into what's going on with your system and your CRM application? And a key part of all of this is being able to get that data into the system, make sense out of it, and then make good decisions based on that data. We'll also touch on Profit CRM integration, or just integration in general, as one of the key ways to help make your CRM strategy a success. Not everyone has to do integration with other systems, but it can be a very useful concept. So let's talk a little bit about what some of the things you might achieve with a CRM program, whether it's an existing program you're trying to use better, or if it's you're newly launching a CRM. One of them is fundamentally just having better communications. It's a key concept for all CRMs and business in general. Having better follow-up, whether it's existing clients, new clients, projects, you name it, having follow-up and visibility on those. That follow-up is a key aspect of what you can get out of a CRM if it's implemented correctly. Accountability. This isn't necessarily Big Brother is watching you. We're talking about basic, job responsibilities. Being able, even for an individual, to see how they're performing to their own metrics or goals. A key part of many CRM implementations is to drive revenue growth, and that is absolutely a key part of what we're going to talk about today. In fact, according to some recent research, CRMs can return 871% on a dollar invested. Our own customers report an average of 21% increase in revenue after implementing our Profit CRM for Outlook. I changed this concept, this slide here, from the role of management to the role of leadership, and I want to explain why. Leadership is something that's not a title bestowed upon someone necessarily. It's the fact that people tend to follow leaders. They tend to take, leaders lead by example, and other people see that that's working, and they follow these people. So you may or may not have a title of management in your, in your title, your job title, but you could very well be in a leadership role or position. So the role of leadership with a CRM is, first, explain to everyone why you have invested in CRM, or why you're going to invest in CRM. It seems to be an obvious thing, but yet I find that a lot of people don't do that. A lot of companies don't do that. And it's good to get that buy-in. It might be as simple as we're trying to help the sales team be more effective, and so that you can make more money, things like that. But you also have to make your expectations clear. Why are you launching a CRM? That's a key question, but what do you expect people to do with it? It might be as simple as things like just when you make a sales call, log it into the system so that other people can see what's been going on with that client or that prospect. It could be that you want a certain number of meetings to be developed with clients or prospects and that sort of thing. But it's important to make your expectations clear. What are you trying to get out of the CRM? And again, surprising that a lot of companies haven't done that. And all these things go into your CRM plan, by the way, that we talked about initially. I think it's important to track metrics. A quick story on this. I was meeting with an existing client, a fairly good sized one, and we were talking about things like goals and things like that, and metrics. I mentioned the term KPI. By the way, it means key performance indicator. I said to you guys, have you established KPIs? There was a silence on the other end of the phone. Somebody asked, what's a KPI? And I said, well, and I heard him ask that of someone else in the call. And I said, well, they're like metrics. Well, what do you mean? I said, do you guys have any goals? And it turns out this company had over 100 salespeople, and they didn't even have sales goals. It was kind of shocking. So we were able to help them establish some KPIs, or key performance indicators, simple things that makes everyone a little more clear on what's going on and what's expected of them. And a key thing is, once you set your expectations, you have to inspect what you expect. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting your time on that. Another part of successful CRM implementation and strategy is your process design. I'm going to focus and give examples on the sales process, but any process, order entry, customer support, what have you, all have a process design behind them. And so we'll cover some of the best practices for that, how to design a process, how to ensure repeatability, how to use analytics, which are some of the reporting tools we offer to refine the process to see what's working and what's not. Just in case you're wondering, kind of like, well, what's the benefits of a consistent process? Well, I'll share a few things. One of the things is it'll help you drive desired behaviors, which is always a key thing. In sales, that could be, making outbound sales calls or meeting new people, that sort of thing. Getting the team organized. Key concept of any process is to help people be organized so that they know how to do it. Now, I use a tool called Visio. It's part of Microsoft Suite now to design processes, but this doesn't have to be in a formal program. It could be in Excel. It could be on a whiteboard. You can put it on a legal pad. It doesn't really matter what you use in the way of tools, but the important thing is to have a consistent process that's well documented. It'll also help you shorten your sales cycle. Once you have a process and you know what steps you're going to go through to move through the process, it'll help you collapse the sales cycle, which of course is always a good thing. Driving revenue, key part of a consistent process, of course, but in a sales process, this is one of the main things you want to do. So you want to have a process that helps you drive revenue by moving, contacts to leads to qualified opportunities, moving those through the stages, and eventually you will result in more revenue. One of the benefits of a process is having better forecasting so that you can forecast your demand or your revenue, your income streams and your revenue. Some of the best practices of designing a sales process in this case is to create a sales process document. First of all, define what you want to capture. I mean, it's not just data for the sake of data. You want to be very careful and think through what you really need, because frankly, if you ask people to fill out 100 fields in an opportunity form or something, they're just not going to do it. So you want to be a little bit careful on how much you ask people to do, but think carefully through what data you want to capture, like maybe what industry the customer or prospect is in, maybe where they're geographically located, what's the probability, how much revenue is it worth, and so on. And today's program is more of a conversation. I will be referring here momentarily to how this all looks in a CRM and what, kind of explaining more of the detail. But the point here is not a functionality demonstration. It's to get across some key concepts. One of the key concepts is to identify the key sales stages. Those are the steps you go through in your sales process. If you haven't done it, has to be done. It's a key part of the sales process design. If you have done it, you might always want to revisit them to make sure they're relevant. Another thing to do is define the activities that occur at each stage, so you know what to drive, what are the objectives at each stage in the process, what kind of activities should you be pursuing. And a super important thing, and often forgotten, is to involve the business process owners. If you're going to define a sales process, you might want to talk to the salespeople, at least understand how it's done today so that you can improve it or at least assess it, and agree on what you want to track. What are your metrics? What are you trying to do here? You want to see how much is in your pipeline, and do you want to see how many new contacts were created or what have you? But you need to agree on what you want to track. Maybe certain key activities are important, like how many on-site meetings were held, how many demonstrations, how many quotes were generated, things of that nature. And then at the end of the day, a good process will help you do all this, but then you will continue to, remember, CRM is a journey. You will continue to benchmark, meaning set kind of goals and expectations that are relevant, refine the process, and troubleshoot it if there's any problems with it. And the activities in the sales process, to just touch on that just a little bit more, have to do with what you do at each stage. Now, this is just an example, but maybe when you first get a prospect or a lead, potential new client, what do you do? How do you get that? How do you get to that point? Make phone calls, send emails, do webinars, whatever it is. These are activities that you will already know about. When you're qualifying, again, more meetings, phone calls. Maybe you do discovery calls, set appointments, things of that nature. So the point here is that it's part of your CRM strategy. You need to think about activities that you want to drive. Ensuring continued adoption is an ongoing thing. We offer quarterly reviews. You really just need to do continuous training and reinforcement as a CRM vendor. We know that's important. We have various programs to help you do that. And really, kind of the idea is that you first create your plan, you implement the plan, you continue to check it, and then if you need refinements of it, you take action to do that. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to analyze all of this and see how successful it was through the reporting and analytics functionality of any good CRM. I'm going to stop here from a standpoint of the general presentation and start giving you some specific examples. And one of them is starting with just the platform you're on. So many of you know, if you're already a Profit user, we elected to build our CRM around the Outlook platform and Microsoft Office platform. Doesn't mean that's the only way to go. There's lots of successful companies, I suppose, that have used things just more like maybe another email system other than Outlook, or another calendaring system. Some CRMs have that all built into themselves. But whatever you do, you need to get everybody on the same platform so that you can go in and look at, see what's going on with other people's calendars. Always an important thing to be able to keep track of people's time. A common way to send and track emails. I'll show you an example of that in Profit CRM. So as you may know, Profit is embedded in Outlook. And one of the benefits of that, by the way, is just being able to go in here and say, I want to see all of the emails associated with a contact. Well, these can all be Outlook emails, or they can be Outlook appointments that you're tracking, things of that nature. And you can see all of the emails and notes associated with a contact or a company or an opportunity. So by being on the same platform, that means everybody's, if you're sending emails through Outlook, they're all going to be Outlook based. If you're creating appointments, they're all going to be on your Outlook calendar. But the main concept there is to have a common platform that everyone is on. In terms of Outlook, I want to just drill into a little bit more on that. I'm a long-time user of Outlook. I think I've used Outlook since it was first invented back in like 1993 or something like that. Been using it for a long time, and I really like it because it's effective. And our CRM integration with Outlook helps you do a lot of different things. Like, for example, I could be looking at an appointment, but I could open the record associated with that appointment because they're all integrated together. So I can open, in this case, an opportunity that's associated with that meeting. I can see emails associated with that opportunity or contact or company. So the main point I'm getting across is that the platform you're on is an important aspect of the whole CRM strategy. So you have to agree on that platform. There's a lot of functions of Outlook, which, I'm often surprised how people don't really scratch the surface on Outlook itself. I hold trainings on it. We can do consulting for your company or training on it specifically for you or your business. But, things like color coding and, automating the color coding based upon the subject line, or automating email templates and things of that nature. So there's a lot that you can do with Outlook that will enhance any CRM experience for that matter. So let's talk a little bit about how all this data gets in here, because without data, none of this will ever be useful. So part of your CRM strategy has to get good data into the system. So there's a lot of ways with different CRMs to get data into it, but one of the basic things about Profit is that it utilizes Outlook data. So contacts, for example, are Outlook contacts. We do add some features to an Outlook contact. What this means, though, is when you implement Profit, or if you've already implemented it and you're just wanting to increase adoption, well, it's set up intrinsically out of the box so that all somebody has to do is create an Outlook contact, and unless it's marked private, which is an Outlook function, it'll go right into the CRM database. So think about adoption for a minute. I mean, without adoption, a CRM is a waste of time and money. So it's a little self-serving here, but the idea behind having things based in Outlook is that if people already know how to use Outlook and know how to create a contact in Outlook, how to send an email in Outlook, all of that is part of the adoption, because it's all utilized once you put your CRM in. Whatever system that you implement and whatever CRM you choose, you have to keep in mind that adoption is the key. So the whole key is to make it easy to create contacts, easy to do things like communicate with email, easy to create appointments, and so on. Another aspect of that is that when you first install Profit, if you're just looking to install it, you're gonna find that people's Outlook contacts will come over natively, and they will be part of the CRM database unless they're marked private, which is an easy thing to do. You can just go down and check off the contacts that you don't want in the CRM here. So what I'm getting at here is that the platform is all important for adoption as well, so that you want people to have a familiar environment, hopefully, that they can utilize. And the other aspect that I wanted to point out of adoption is first of all, everyone will likely have been trained initially with a CRM. Certainly the case with ours. We provide training at the outset. But I mentioned CRM as a journey. And here's kind of how I find it works is that the more someone learns about a CRM, especially if it's based in Outlook like Profit, the more they want to learn about Outlook. So again, we provide training just on Outlook, if you wish. In fact, let me just share with you a couple of places to find this information. We provide a lot of material that's free. If you go to our main website, you're going to find there are webinars, there are learning videos. Here's one on getting started with Profit, using reporting tools, setting up automation. And what you're going to see is that there's just a bunch of information about Outlook in here, how to tame your Outlook inbox. That series has over 1.5 million views on it right now, very popular topic. We have like beginning, advanced, and intermediate Outlook training. So my point is that whatever your environment is, it's important to train people on that platform, on that environment. So getting back to data though, data can be created from Outlook contacts. Now Profit has a very interesting functionality in that when you create a contact in Profit, which is an Outlook contact, it automatically creates the company record associated with it, which means someone doesn't have to do data entry to create a company record, which most CRMs force you to do. And in the Profit CRM, if I create a contact, it creates the company record automatically. And as I create additional contacts associated with that company, you'll see that those contacts are automatically added to the company record, which is a very useful function of how Profit works. So here I have 3 contacts that were created, the first one and then 2 others, and they automatically got associated with the company record. So when I'm talking about getting data in the system, part of your strategy has to be adoption, so people will do it. Well, that eliminates one whole step of data entry, is how the company record is created automatically. Getting data into the system. You can also import data. There's an import utility built right in Profit. Many of you, I'm sure, have already used this, but it makes it really easy to get data in as long as it was from an Excel format. I'll show you an example of that. So this is the import utility. I just went to my tools. And remember, this isn't a functionality training today. This is really just meant to give you some concepts of how to make your CRM implementation a success. So here we have some files that I've created. I'll just pick one here. And what I'm going to show you is how easy it is to import data, in this case from any Excel spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add that to my import list. Okay. I'm going to select which worksheet I want to use. And then I will do what's called mapping the files. It automatically maps if you have the same names, but then you can line up like by drag and drop. Company name goes to company phone goes to business phone, etc. There's some dedupe options after that, and then away you go. You've imported your data. The main work in that, by the way, is just getting your Excel data in a clean kind of a clean format. But that's another way to get data into the CRM. If you don't have data in the CRM, again, won't be adopted. The ability to integrate with other systems is a key part of this. Let me just jump ahead to that. So, and while we're talking about getting data into the system, that's one way to do it. You can import data at any time through the import utility. You can create Outlook contacts, but you can also get data into Profit through in a CRM by integration. Integration is the basic platform for interoperability of different systems. How that works is basically you can have different customizable fields in addition to all the standard fields, like company name, phone number, address, city, state, zip. You can have additional fields in here, like maybe you want to have things like year-to-date purchases, revenue, last year, credit limit, accounts receivable over 90 days, or things of that nature. And there's 72 customizable fields just in the company record alone. But my point is this can be integrated so that information can flow from like an ERP or an accounting system into the CRM, and vice versa. It could be that if you create a new account and it's not already in your ERP or your accounting system, that data can be pushed into the accounting or ERP system. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the types of integration, because adoption is going to be greatly enhanced if you wanted to automate the ability to get data from one system into another. So with our system with Profit CRM, we do offer an open API. If you don't know what that is, then it won't mean a whole lot to you, but it's the application programmer interface that basically provides that interoperability between systems. So Profit has its own API, which means it can be integrated with other systems that have APIs. Most all accounting and ERP systems do, by the way. So that's right out of the box. Another platform we support for integration is called Zapier. It's an integration platform that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apps on it that if you're on the platform as we are, then those systems can be integrated together. That's not an Avidian product. That's a different company, but it's a very popular integration platform. We also offer database direct integration, SQL to SQL. We have, not to overwhelm you with technical jargon, but SSIS, SQL Server Integration Services. We can do simple integrations by just having data being, spit out once a day, once a night, exported, if you will, to an FTP site. So we can do FTP site integrations. We can do single direction integrations, bidirectional integrations, and we can also do multi-directional integrations depending on your requirements. Just to let you know, we do offer this as turnkey projects, so we can do the integration for you, or we can consult with you on it if you need some help on the API, or all of the above. So the integration, the reason I mention it in the context of today's discussion is that integration can help with a lot of things, including end user adoption. And again, the less you have people enter data manually, the more you'll adopt it, and then the more value you'll get out of your CRM. So all of this data is now in the database. It's really, any good CRM is a centralized database of contacts, people, companies, clients, opportunities, leads, whatever you call them. But then the question becomes, what do you do with this data? So we talked about, setting some KPIs. Well, one of the KPIs could be simply how many contacts did you create this month, this year, this week? And I'll get into some of the analytics and reporting on that, but I'll show you some simple things. Maybe you want to see when contacts were last updated or accounts were last, updated. So you can easily go in here and simply do a sort or a filter by date, and you can see contact updated date. That's the system modified date. If you want, you can go in and look at what were those activities. You can go into the notes and things like that. But the main idea I'm getting across here is when you start setting objectives, like what are your objectives? Maybe you want so many new contacts created in a certain period of time. Maybe you want people to have a certain number of meetings or update leads or opportunities, within a certain time frame. And that's quite easy to do. Once you are in a view in Profit, just as an example, you can easily create a view that shows all of the contacts that were updated in a certain period of time, either by just sorting and scrolling, or you can actually do a filter here. And Profit has a lot of built-in filters that let you analyze the data without even getting into any real reports here. So I can say, you know what, I want to just see any contacts that were modified or updated between I don't know, a month ago and today, or whatever. You can put in a date range, and then now you can view that data. So I had, in this list, I have 24 contacts that were updated in that date range. Again, just a little filter. If you want to start getting some data out of Profit, which is kind of the segue into our next part of the conversation, you can just click the Excel button once you've created a list like that and say export all rows or selected rows. And you've now been able to take some action on your goals, like how many contacts were created in that period of time for a particular person. Well, here they are. There's a simple report that you can get. And this all goes back to your going to setting objectives with your CRM. If you don't set objectives, well, how will you know if you're successful? So remember to go, when you're first developing your CRM, I want to reiterate, remember, it's have a written plan, set objectives. And that's a key part of what we're talking about here. It should be easy to do to be able to determine whether or not you're meeting those objectives. Take another example. Let's go into opportunities. Maybe you want to look at opportunities by value because the whole goal is to drive the value of your pipeline. So I can just go into my opportunity manager, which, as you may know, is just a folder in Outlook here, and I can sort my opportunities by largest to smallest. So if I want to just look at maybe, I can just see how I'm just using my keyboard to select here. Here's my top 10 opportunities in my pipeline right there worth $10 million. Great. What if my boss asked me, what do I got going on? What's my top 10? Well, it's easy to do. I just go into this list, sort by revenue, select the top 10, and I don't even have to run a report. Again, if I wanted to run a report or just generate some sort of report on that, I could say I just want to export those top 10 rows that I just selected. There's my top 10 pipeline. I could now file, share, send this to somebody as an attachment or a PDF, and away we go. That part of it was all just Microsoft Office. All right, so I can send that off, give it a subject line, top 10 funnel, and away we go. So I'm just showing you some basic concepts in terms of executing your CRM strategy. Once you've set some goals, how to get some useful knowledge out of it, useful information. Another thing might be I want to see how many opportunities were updated, and just like we did with the contacts. So I can sort or filter by date range, and I can see how many opportunities have been updated in the month of October, for example, or some other time frame. Again, you can just select, or you can use the filter button, which is just like Excel, and being able to start tracking whether or not you're achieving your objectives, how many opportunities you're creating, how many contacts you're creating, things of that nature. While we're in the opportunity view, I wanted to focus in on the concept of the sales process. And really, as we talked briefly about the sales process, for which, by the way, we have additional consulting and training available. I'm going to go back to that diagram that I showed you earlier briefly. Sales process basically consists of identifying the steps you go through in your process, but boiling them up to these what we call stages. By default in the system, they're called sales stages or stages. And what these are the key milestones you're getting to in your sales process. Those are represented here in the sales stage dropdown in the opportunity. Now, these are entirely up to your company as to how you define these. Every company is different. We have defaults. We have a lot of different industry templates, but these tell you where you're at in the sales process. And that's a really key thing for understanding your sales pipeline. So for example, if I wanted to go in and look at my sales pipeline by stage, there are a couple ways to do it. I could just sort that list by stage. Here's all the deals in stage 1. You can see here's all the deals in stage 2, and so on. But I could also filter, which is like an Excel filter. By the way, if you have a lot, you don't have to really look through the list. You can just start typing in the first few letters of it. And now I'm looking at everything in the proposal stage. It could be very well one of your CRM objectives and strategies is to increase the number of deals that you've quoted. Like, duh, right? Assuming you've qualified these prospects and leads, this is an obvious thing to do. And by the way, in here, you can just select all in a list if you want, and it'll give you a quick summary. This shows I have 19 deals that are active that have proposals out there, and there's about $6.1 million worth of them. Great. That's actually huge, key critical information for the company, right? And again, you can do that for any column, any stage. Maybe you just want to see who's not been qualified. So I can just uncheck a box, go in here. I'm just showing you kind of how to inspect what you expect. And that is a key part of developing a successful CRM strategy. And as we go through this, there's a few things that will enhance the adoption, but also just the success of the CRM. And one of them is the ability to set automated workflow. So let's just say I had one of these new leads that came in, or these new prospects. They're in stage 1, and I wanted to reach out, contact them, and then make sure that I have some follow-up. That's called workflow. Notice there's no workflow set here. But these stages I was talking about can each have its own set of automated actions, if you will. So in stage 1, maybe the action is to send an email and create several follow-ups. So all I have to do, once I've set that up, this is part of the sales automation, and increasing adoption is making it easy to use, right? So this just created that first email for me from a template. And we do have videos and training on how to do this. You can consult with you more if you don't already use this function. But that's awesome. I got the introductory email. I could still edit it. Here's a reminder to follow up with that person. But look over here, now I've got a whole series of additional follow-ups, each staged a week apart or 2 weeks apart or whatever your timing would be. And by the way, they can be emails, they can be also reminders, which are task reminders in Outlook. They can even be meetings on your calendar. But what this serves to do is it helps ensure that you're following a consistent process so that at each stage you have certain types and number of communications, or what we might call touches. So literally with one action, I created 6 touches: an intro email, a reminder to call them, and 4 more follow-up emails. And all that serves to drive the sales process forward. The more you drive forward, of course, the more revenue you're going to generate. Another key way to do that, in terms of just how the system can work to help ensure adoption and that you're driving your sales process, is simply to always set a next step. Simple little thing. Many of you probably already use this, but maybe, well, imagine if your people on your sales team always establish the next step with the client or prospect, and when they put a date on it, it automatically reminds them, or it can automatically remind them to do it with an Outlook reminder. Well, that's going to obviously drive the process forward, because every time you're have a certain action with the client or prospect, if you set the next step, then it continues the sales process, and it all goes back to that sales process design that we were just talking about. And the whole purpose of a process is to get from one step to the next, to the next, to the next, until you've completed the process successfully, or maybe in some cases you closed it out because it wasn't qualified. But nevertheless, everything I'm showing you right now is designed to help you make it easy to follow the process that we're talking about here. So let's continue on into some of the how do you get the information you need to find out if you've actually done it. And why do we want to do this? So I consider any kind of report or dashboard or anything of that sort should be focused around something that's actionable. Otherwise, why are you reporting on it? I don't believe in reporting for the sake of it. So you might be asking, like, what makes some reps more productive than others? Are they setting more meetings? Are they creating more contacts? What are they doing? Getting more deals to proposal or quote stage? What lead sources are producing the most revenue would be a really good part of your CRM implementation strategy, is to try to understand and then drive more leads to the sources that are working for you. And so that's an actionable insight. Find out what's working and do more of it. Interpreting your sales pipeline. It might be that some people have a much healthier pipeline on average than others, and you might want to understand why that is. Where's your new business coming from? Where is it geographically located? So there are a number of reporting tools in Profit. And to wrap up, I just wanted to kind of bring this all back together with a visual of some of those tools. One of them, of course, is just to be able to easily export filtered, sorted lists and from the database right out of Profit. Get an Excel sheet. People like Excel. They can use it all day long. There's also a reporting tool built right into Profit. There's 30 or so reports that come with it. I won't get into that in any depth today, but many of you know about that. But one thing to keep in mind with this, you can also create your own reports. We can provide and do provide training on this if you want to create your own reports. These create kind of traditional reports, but I want to center in on a report format that I like a lot. It's called analytics. Right out of the box, you have a simple version of this if you've enabled it or have it enabled. I use the desktop version, so I'll show you that. This is based on Microsoft Power BI, and it connects to the Profit database in real time. You can run this from any of your devices, or even deploy it through the web. But what this gives you is the actionable insight in terms of data that's been kind of formatted in such a way as to really give you insight into what's going on. So for example, on the lower right here, this is my funnel. I have 16 deals in demo stage, 16 deals in proposal stage, 5 awaiting payment, 2 are reached project stage, and so on. And the whole point of this is to help me inspect the health of my funnel, my pipeline. You can see who has revenue by user, how much revenue is in the pipeline by user. You can change the date ranges on the fly here. You can filter it by any of the criteria in the report. But just take an example of, this is the outcome of a successful CRM strategy. If you've implemented your CRM correctly, and with our help perhaps, then you will be able to determine whether or not your CRM strategy is being effective. And I have a question over here about Google Maps. I'm going to get to that in 1 second. So hang on for that. But look at this. How many active opportunities do we have in this range that we think we might close? How many were won? How many were lost? Which that's cool because that creates your conversion rate, your win ratio. You can see who's converting the most or the least. You can see how much value that represents. So there's one dashboard here called the pipeline, and that's a key part of any sales organization. Now, another one is activities. Activities drive sales. Let's just face it. Well, activities drive any process, but we're probably mostly a sales audience today. How many call activities were generated? How many emails were generated? How many of those automated workflows were generated? What's the overall activity curve look like? How many companies were engaged? Who's driving the most or the least activity? And again, I can assure you, if you're not aware of this, that activities drive sales. And if you don't get that, you might want to go back and we can argue that separately, but I believe activities drive sales. Activities drive results, as long as it's the correct activity. And then you can look at your team in terms of how many contacts were created. Remember KPIs? Well, that's where this comes in. You can see things like how many new contacts were created, and it can be filtered by user. That would be the profit users. You can see how many company accounts were created, how many opportunities were created. You can see where they're geographically located. You can also see that we use a little AI and fuzzy logic to determine kind of the job function. It kind of extracts things from the job title and so on in context and tells you, are you getting contacts by job function that are the right kind of contacts? Well, this tells you I got VP, manager, owner, director. That's kind of stuff you want to see. So that's awesome. Since this is the kind of the scheduled end of our webinar, I did have a question about one of the whether you can see prospects or customers on a Google map. It is on our mobile apps, but I'm going to show you here momentarily where you can find that. I think it's in one of these webinars right here. Yeah, so if you go into the webinar section here, you're going to find a YouTube channel, and here, let me just find the exact one so the person asking that question can locate it, and then we'll wrap up. I'm going to just show you, if you go into any one of those videos, you'll wind up at our YouTube channel, and let's see here. Yeah, you're going to see that there's a video on how to import contacts into Google Maps right there. So you can just go into to our website and search our YouTube channel for that. How to import contacts into Google Maps, you'll find this. By the way, again, we have a lot of training materials online. You can access any of that that's publicly available at no charge. We have a series of learning videos that we've developed, which are very robust. We can also go into the webinars, which are recorded webinars like today's webinar, which will be posted. This is a great one, structuring and interpreting your CRM data, all the Outlook training stuff. So lots of resources there for you all. Well, it is the scheduled wrap-up time for our call today. I want to thank you all for your time. I really trust that we've added some value to your day, and good luck with creating and executing your CRM strategy. Be safe. We'll talk to you again soon.
Boost productivity and get the most out of Outlook with Profit CRM. Have a look at the following topics which are covered in the Profit CRM Learning Series. Visit www.avidian.com.